Okay.
All right, this is Kill You Last. I'm Peter Garacci.
I'm Alex Bashera.
We got Robert Cotto. First time on the pod. Welcome, Rob.
Hi,
Welcome.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Welcome to quarantine.
Yeah. So this is we've been doing. We stopped calling it. We were doing quarantine emergency pods and giving them numbers, but so
It was
doesn't
pandemic
matter
emergency pods.
Yeah. Whatever it is, bullshit. So
well, it's become less of an emergency.
Yeah, now it's just become regular reality. But no, it's cool to get you on. So you are a friend of Marcus Pinn, who's one of our favorites here at Kill You Last. He was just on again for the second time a couple weeks ago, put us in touch. So we've been communicating on Twitter, so excited to have you on. You picked a movie that I'm super excited to talk about, so I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, so I picked, I heard that pop. I picked Bill Murray's and Howard Franklin's Quick Change, 1990, Warner Brothers. I think one of the best comedies of the 90s, and certainly one of the most underrated films of the last 30 years. It's kind of one of these movies that if you know it, you're a massive fan of it, and if you don't know it, it's ripe for rediscovery. So yeah, it's one of my favorite pictures.
I don't think it's underrated. I think it's completely unknown, which is a travesty. I think you're right about that. I think it's one of those movies that somehow got lost in the shuffle. And I consider 90 the end of the 80s. This is still, to me, still Bill Murray, the 80s superstar.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely an 80s vibe, even though 1990. You know, and to corroborate your point, I had not heard of this movie at all. This is my first time hearing of it, or seeing any scenes in it, too.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember being a kid and seeing the commercials, and all they showed in the commercials is Bill Murray as a clown. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then I remember somebody in my class being like, dude, that movie is so funny. And then I sought it out. But if it literally wasn't for another kid in class saying that, I might have missed it too. So yeah, Rob, go in on what you think. Are you a big Bill Murray guy? Or
initially, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 38 years old, so I was young when this movie came out, and I did see it upon its theatrical release. During that time, it's in essence, it's the follow-up to Ghostbusters 2, which, however you feel about that. As a 9-year-old, I loved Ghostbusters 2. I thought it was fun. It was hysterical. Yeah. But I was also very much an original Saturday Night Live fan, and I had discovered a half-hour compilation series on Nick at Night that they did of the best of Saturday Night Live. So I became real exposed to SNL, the 75 to 80 series, around this time. And so I was a massive Dan Aykroyd fan. I was a massive John Belushi fan. I, unfortunately, as an 8.5-year-old, 9-year-old, learned about what a drug overdose was, really quickly. So so in a way it was an offshoot of that. And by, July 1990, I had already seen Stripes. I had already seen Meatballs. I had seen both Ghostbusters movies, Scrooged. I knew who the Loopners were. I knew who Nick the Lounge Singer was. So going into this movie, it's just, you're going to see a Bill Murray comedy.
Yeah.
And I remember going and seeing it the weekend it opened. I don't have it here, but at the counter where you would buy your ticket from an actual usher when people bought tickets in person, they had promo buttons. It was a little green button and it said Quick Change, the logo of the movie. And I asked the usher if I could have one, and they had this whole bag full of them and gave me a few, which I have in storage somewhere. So I already went into this movie going, well, look, I got a little piece of novelty. I'm going to sit here and have a good time. And for an hour and a half, not even, it's 89 minutes.
Yeah, it's a quick one.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
It was a blast then. And I actually watched it the other night, and I've seen it subsequently. I've seen it, I want to say I've seen it 35, 40 times in 30 years, if not more.
I'm up there with you. It was really fun to revisit this movie because I own the DVD, but I haven't watched it in years. And I
put it up.
You got it back for
us. Yeah.
So this has been happening. We've just sort of coincidentally been doing a lot of New York movies. And
right.
like, I love going back now as an adult who lives in New York City and rewatching the movies that as a kid, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what the BQE even meant. Do you know what I mean? Like, and going back and rewatching and be like, oh my God, that's where the bank is around the corner from Grand Central. Like, I've walked that corner 100 times in the last 2 years, and I didn't even realize that's where it was. And to me, it's funny. We just did Escape from New York a couple weeks ago. This movie is Escape from New York, and that's one of the things I always loved about this movie is I mean, huge Bill Murray guy. Like, to me, it's Lost in Translation, it's Ghostbusters, and it's Rushmore. And it's really hard.
Last night.
It's really hard for me. Like, I love those movies for different reasons. And Ghostbusters to me is my favorite New York City movie.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I could, on a given day, I could argue that this is my favorite of Bill Murray movie and my favorite New York movie, because I love New York City, but I love New York City the way a person who knows it deeply also hates New York City. And that's really, I think there was a quote online that Bill Murray said, this is a movie for people who, he's like, people who really know New York City hate the city the same way that I do. And that's what like this movie is about. And it's like, and it is. And again, like an 89 New York City is not 2019 or 2020 New York City. And it's so fun to go back and see what the city was at that time period. Cause it's like, it's so like it's all of those guys. It's the fucking bus driver. It's the construction worker. It's the Chinese guy at the bodega. It's like it's such a love affair to all the things that drive you crazy about New York City.
And yet it still all happens perfectly structured in under 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it features, I want to say, and I have a couple things that you mentioned there and I want to go back to, but it features, I think, all-time best performances from Randy Quaid, Bill Murray, and then people like Stanley Tucci, who you had never seen before and now you've always seen since. Was in this movie first. Or you mentioned the bus driver, Phil Bosco, great character actor who's no longer with us. But I mean, that's a perfect role. But anybody, for me personally, whenever I see Tony Shalhoub, I don't think of Monk. I don't think of Mrs. Maisel. I think of Bleftoony. I think of him in that cab.
Yeah,
that
he's
is
hilarious.
One of the greatest comedic performances of all time.
Because it's about like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like we should just to go a quick, because again, there's going to be a lot of people that haven't seen this. So the movie starts with a bank robbery. It's actually an ingenious plot. Like, if you were going to pull off a bank robbery, this would be how you'd want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's basically Dog Day Afternoon if Dog Day Afternoon worked.
If they got out of the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. If they got out of the bank, this is how it would have been.
So Bill Murray's dressed as a clown. He holds up the bank. He starts making ridiculous demands, and he's going to give one hostage at a time. What the cops obviously don't know is the first two hostages are his accomplices, and then he comes out in a disguise.
And what's brilliant, just while you're explaining, which I think you should continue to, but is the audience and the viewer, you also don't know that these, at the time of them showing like each of the hostages being released, you're fully being fooled by Bill Murray. You can't possibly know that these two hostages that are released upon first viewing are his accomplices. I know that because I just watched it 3 hours ago for the first time. And I honestly was totally duped like 4 times in this movie. That was like the first time.
A newer version of this movie would start with 20 minutes of them planning the heist.
Exactly, with these like cut scenes and just bullshit.
So this movie starts with, and again, such a New York, like, it's Bill Murray as a clown on the subway, walking down the street and pissed because of the random things that happen to you as you're walking down the street
in New
York City.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off that for a moment. The movie starts off, with a shot of the skyline, and then it jiggles, and you realize that you're on the subway, and then you realize that you're on a crowded subway, and the way that they shot that initial scene of him sitting on the subway with everybody else is probably the most authentic subway shot, in any of the New York movies that I've ever seen. And I've seen them all, believe me. And it's one of the most, it's perfect, and then when him trying to get out, banging the balloons. I mean, that's a joke with the balloons, but that's real life. Even if I didn't have balloons, like I'm still trying to get off that train like that, every morning, or 2 months ago when I was actually getting off the train every morning.
No, and so they escape. It's ingenious. Now all they got to do is get to JFK.
All they have to do is get out of the city, and they're
scot-free. They got tickets to go to Fiji. So the movie is them literally trying to get to the fucking airport, and everything that can go wrong goes wrong, and that's it's so simple, but it's actually I didn't realize it's based on a novel,
Really?
I believe it was a French novel that then got turned into a French movie first, and then Bill Murray. So this is the only movie that Bill Murray directed, and he co-directed it. And he never wanted to direct a movie. This was a really bad experience for him because this movie was a flop, and it was kind of the end of Bill Murray as Bill Murray does Ghostbusters, monster hit, Ghostbusters 2, goes to France and studies at the Sorbonne for a couple of years and just disappears, comes back. This does not do well, and it could have you have what Rushmore came out in 96?
98. So
98?
Rushmore, so this comes out in 90, and he had done the whole thing at the Sorbonne in between Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. He tells the story about how he got roped into coming back to do something like Legal Eagles, and then he didn't do it.
Yeah, they wanted to do it. He said, "I love the balls of a Bill Murray is. I think he's hysterical." Mm-hmm. I love his comedy, but also the character of Bill Murray and the balls of him and how he managed his career is also what's so ingenious about him.
Yeah.
And I think it became cool to be Bill Murray fans, and it became a hip Williamsburg thing to be into Bill Murray.
Right.
But yeah. Bill Murray was one of the 3 or 4 biggest box office draws of the 80s. It's hard to make sense of how much money Ghostbusters made and what a huge part of the spawning a cartoon and toys and sequel. The fact that they're still making Ghostbusters movies now and they're trying to drag these guys back into it. He just had this aloof attitude about the whole thing, which is awesome. I fucking love the guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at, but then you look at the choices of movies that he made, in between this and Rushmore, and they're rather interesting. One I will point to because I'm a massive Scorsese fan is Mad Dog and Glory, written by Richard Price and starring Robert De Niro and Uma Thurman. Which in a way is kind of in a way, it's Midnight Run's a good double feature with that because you got Robert De Niro playing against type in both films.
Yeah.
De Niro was originally offered the Grodin role, whereas De Niro was also originally offered the Frank Milo role in this, and he's like, "Nah, I want to play the schlub. Let Bill Murray play the gangster witch," and it totally works.
So Mad Dog and Glory is another movie that people don't know about that
Correct.
I love. Alex, De Niro plays a schlubby police photographer, and Bill Murray plays a mobster who owns a comedy club and goes up in front of his
I can't believe how have I never heard of this?
It's
perfect.
So
De Niro and Bill Murray
he goes,
and a comedy.
He goes up in front of his the other minions, and they have to laugh at him because he's the mob boss.
Yeah.
And so the premise of the movie is De Niro saves Bill Murray's life, and Bill Murray goes, "I owe you, so I'll give you my girl to possess," and the girl is a young Uma Thurman.
Oh shit!
He's literally, here, have this as a present, and it's a person.
Yikes!
I love that movie too.
I wouldn't play now.
Yeah. Bill Murray has he's kind of a melancholy. I've never seen Where the Buffalo Roam, and I've never seen Razor's Edge, and I know those are movies that he really cares about and he wants to be serious or whatever.
And they're flawed. I mean, they're good. There's good performances in there, but they're both flawed movies.
But Rushmore to me, I was thinking about this today. We've talked about this a few times. Tarantino was foundational for me. Going to see Pulp Fiction was a big experience for me because I was I didn't know you could do that.
How old were you when Pulp Fiction came out?
15. I'm going to be 41 in a couple days.
All right, so fair enough. Sorry, we're about the same.
The next movie that I could say that about is Rushmore.
Right.
That movie hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know you could make a movie like that. And Bill Murray's performance in that is fucking out of this world. But that's a different Bill Murray, and I still like this Bill Murray is he's a dick. He somehow talks his two friends into robbing a bank.
Yeah.
And you never like I can't talk my parents into getting me a dog for Christmas. And this dude like credibly convinces people, and you don't doubt, you never go, oh, wait a minute. He like, when you think about it, the premise of the movie is he roped two other civilians into bank robbery.
He roped his pregnant girlfriend.
His girlfriend, who they insinuate is somewhat like sexually into the idea of bank robbery a number of times in this movie. He says every time I describe the plot, we need to be near a bed. Like basically, because he's basically like Bill Murray just low key gets away with being like if any other dude was saying some of the shit Bill Murray says, he would be the creepiest guy. But Bill Murray's just so smooth, and I don't even think it's like his characters. I think it's just him as a guy. He's just so smooth that like whatever he says, he gets away with. And Gina Davis is like completely in love with him this entire movie, but she's so, conflicted, yada yada. But it's all bullshit. She's obsessed with him, and
she's never looked better, by the way.
Dude, I've been looking up Google images of Gina Davis hot. I have this pulled up on my fucking screen right now. She's so fucking hot, and she's also I don't know, like she's kind of still hot, and she was amazingly
very
attractive.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. What else is she in? What have I seen her in?
Thelma and Louise.
Okay, yeah.
Thelma and Louise, The Accidental Tourist, with the long kiss goodnight. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think she did
Cutthroat Island.
She did TV for a while, right? Wasn't she on a TV show?
She must have been
like the first president, the first female president.
They did a show or something.
You know what it is? Beetlejuice too.
Oh,
she was in Beetlejuice.
Of course.
How do you forget Beetlejuice?
I
did for a moment.
The thing about her is like when people say statuesque, she's statuesque. Right. Like she's like built like a work of art. Like her body, her body is retarded in this movie.
I know.
I don't know how else to say it,
man. It is.
And at the same time, like you don't doubt that she would be with Bill Murray, who's not.
Absolutely.
It's just and Randy Quaid is now known for being crazy, but a great comedic performer. And like also kind of capable of being a little bit of a dick, but like really, like the Randy Quaid character is an easy character for you to be like, all right, fuck this guy. He's clearly they should just like have him killed and get rid of him.
Yeah, they should just
and they joke about it. They joke about it during the movie, which is fucking great because that's what you would do in that situation. You'd be like, do we really need this guy? But he like that performance. You're playing second fiddle to Bill Murray.
Right.
And it'd be like a game where like Ron Harper on the Bulls decided like I'm going to score 50 this game, Jordan. You just take a step back. Like it's not an easy thing to pull off. You know what I mean?
He almost runs away with the movie from Bill Murray.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So this like again, so Bill Murray, not a movie director, I don't think he wanted to direct this movie. I think they kind of decided to direct it.
But I think he probably got roped into directing it just to. Budgetary wise, and
just get it, just to get it done. It was one
just
of those
to get it
probably,
done. Yeah,
but like this, talk about like just the talent that they put into this movie. Kirkwood Smith as a gangster, the dad from '70s show is amazing. He's Lambino. Discovering Tony Shalhoub, discovering Stanley Tucci. Just like the way it's shot as like it's funny because I'm watching and I'm like, oh. They even shot it like a Scorsese movie.
Right.
Like it even looks like a gritty. And in fact, I was watching it and I was like, "Oh, this is the Joker. Like this is another take on the Joker. This is literally like clown decides to become a criminal like before the Joker happened."
Right.
But Yeah, Alex, I'm curious. Like, what first time? What were you thinking? I know you're a Bill Murray fan.
Yeah, no, I was yeah, when I saw it was Bill Murray, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be good. But I thought it was hilarious. I thought there was a lot of like setup punchline, well, not punchline, but setup like hit you kind of jokes. There was a lot of jokes in the movie. They all kind of worked for me. I mean, I was entertained all 89 minutes. I love a short movie. I like you said, just recognizing some of the areas, like the initial neighborhood that they get lost in where they can't find the BQE. I was just trying to figure out where that was because it all looked so familiar to me. And just like in general, getting duped a few times watching this, I had a great time watching it. The one thing I would say is I liked Bill Murray and Gina Davis. I guess I might differ from you guys on Randy. Was it Randy Quaid? The third guy. He annoyed me a little bit throughout this movie. It was like, all right, a little much with the character. Like, I get it. I get the role. I get the script he's got to do. But it's just like, I mean, I maybe it's the character I'm annoyed at, but I couldn't stand him by the end of it. Kind of because I just wanted them to get away with it. And he was such a fucking, like, he was the only reason they weren't getting away with it at one point. He just was slow. He kept falling over for no reason. And he's like, oh, I can't go on. It's like, why, dude? Why? You robbed the bank anyway. Like, what do you mean? Now you can't have the money taped to you? What do you mean?
Well, and that's one of the best jokes in the movie is at the end when they're in the bathroom and they're peeling the money off of him in the bathroom and the guy's standing there watching. Oh,
that's funny. Yeah.
And Bill Murray and him are in the stall. And the guy's getting all disgusted. He's like, "You could keep this city." Walks away.
Yeah. So basically,
it's one of the best jokes.
They're both in the stall, and it's kind of that classic like. All the sounds they're making together in the stall are just like they just sound super sexual and just odd.
There's so many like the joke writing in this.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. But then also like, and that's what, and again, this is another reason I love this. Like the joust, the bicycle joust.
Oh, that was hilarious
God,
too.
Like the best thing ever.
It's unbelievable. It seems like it came out of a
like
movie. Yeah, I couldn't even figure out where it came from, but it seems like it's exactly what you might see in Bushwick in 1989, and your response would be like, "Oh God, no! We're gonna die now." Like you can't. Like it's an unbelievable.
Well, then then Bill Murray's line after that is like he's trying to calm them down. He's like, "Oh, it's just two guys settling a dispute." They're literally like jousting on like what is it, shopping carts or what were they riding?
I think they're on bicycles and they're using mop sticks without the mop in it. Yes. And then the scene where he's got to get the exact the bus driver with the exact change. It's like,
oh, that guy's hilarious too.
How many times have you dealt with a bus driver that doesn't give a shit if you live or die? They're just so regimented in how they do stuff.
Like well, that guy in 2020, I mean, full blown autism. Get behind the white line. Get behind the white line. No, exact change. He's fucking autistic. But they didn't know back then. And
like Bill Murray has to go get change in the bodega, and there's a woman in front of him. She's doing her week shopping.
Yeah.
And I've done the thing that Bill Murray does, which is try to accelerate the transaction. Like I've been like, no, it's like
groceries.
Yeah. You I literally will be like, we have to do this better than we're doing it right now. There's got to be a better way to I don't care.
Come on.
Like I don't care if I have to pay for your groceries.
Yeah.
It actually made me think of a time like my parents live in Jersey and they're getting old and they live a simple life, but they came into Manhattan and in Midtown, like during the day, we went into a Dunkin' Donuts and it just happens to be an empty Dunkin' Donuts. So we're in there and it's Dunkin' Donuts. It's not like reading the menu at per se. Like they know Dunkin' Donuts.
Sure.
and they're going. My mom's going, Joe, what do you want, Splenda or do you want a cruller? And next thing you know, there's 30 people in line at the Dunkin' Donuts. And I was like, I had to take over. I was like, listen, he's getting milk and one Splenda. She's getting it black. I'm getting 2 sugars. Give me some crullers. Let's get the fuck out of here. It's like that New York thing where you all right, I'm not being a dick. I just want this to go as smoothly as possible for everybody and get the fuck out of here. And it's so funny because now no one is in a rush to do anything.
Oh, just because of quarantine. Yeah. Of course. I thought for a second you meant in New York. I was like, no, it's still like that for sure.
I almost got into a fight with a guy at the supermarket the other day for the line. Because, everybody's like waiting like 6 feet away from each other in line. Right. And I was like, no, I was already here. And then I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just go ahead. And then he said, he goes, if it wasn't for what's going on right now, we'd have a problem, but we all got to stick together right now. And I'm like,
what the fuck does that mean?
I was like, I'd almost rather just fight you.
Yeah, fuck you, guy. What the hell's wrong with that guy?
I don't want.
Yeah.
I would almost rather, just for old time's sake, just get in a full-on screaming match.
Well, yeah, for old time's sake, but also for fucking saying that, because like the only reason you say that is because you're an asshole. Like, I mean, yeah, what the fuck? If this was any other time, you just want to say that.
Go. I let you go. Don't worry, I let you go.
Yeah.
It's just like,
guy's
whatever.
Probably half. I don't know. Definitely an Italian guy, right?
I don't want to say. I mean,
come on, we know our kind.
Fucking, what neighborhoods do you guys live in?
I'm sorry.
Well, where in the city are you guys?
We're actually pretty close by. He's in Peter.
I live in East Harlem.
Yeah, and I'm a few blocks down in the Upper East Side, kind of by the
Yorktown.
Yorkville. Yeah.
Or Yorkville, rather.
Right. Yep.
Very cool.
What about you?
I'm in Astoria.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
I'm right by the airport.
About 21-minute walk.
This movie, colored my like how I thought about JFK for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like because I grew up in Elizabeth, which is right where the Newark airport is.
Right.
But a lot of times you have to go to JFK for like international flights, and I just always assume like I would like I'm the kind of guy that gets to the airport like 10 minutes before the doors are closing.
Mm-hmm.
And for JFK, I just assumed like it's going to take 6 hours. Like we might as well leave. Let's leave at dawn because we're never going to get to JFK. Like, you know what I mean? Like it like literally instilled fear in me of how hard it is to get to JFK. And then you drive on the Beltway and it takes you 80 minutes and you're like, oh, this is a fucking piece of cake.
Oh, the best is taking a cab at like 5:30 in the morning for an 8 o'clock flight out of JFK, because you just get right on the highway over here and you're there in like 14 minutes.
Yeah.
No traffic. You're right there.
I actually got into a fight with. I used to do this as a bit. I got into a fight with a cab driver. I was going out with a girl and she lived in Brooklyn, and we were going to JFK, and he decided to go like towards the city on the BQE and then cut over. He went towards Manhattan at rush hour, and then cut over. And he was like this sweet little guy, but he's like, yeah. He goes, I think I made a mistake. And we're going, and she's like whispering in my ear. She goes, I did this trip with my sister, and it was, $28. And I was like, what? The meter got to like $56.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
And so at the end, I've never done this before since, but I was like, dude, I was like, you said you made a mistake. He goes, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. He goes, just give me whatever you want to give me. And I think I gave him like $35.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when the meter was 58, but she told me that it cost her like $30 the last time. And he's like, kind of shakes his head. And then later, like, I was like, you sure it was $30? And she goes, 30, maybe it might have been 40, maybe 50. And I go,
oh God.
And she goes, what's the difference? I was like, the difference is I stiffed the guy $20 because you told me he was ripping us off.
Well, he should have just flat rated you anyway.
Well, he seems like a nice guy who just made a mistake.
It's just so funny. It's like, she's like, yeah, I was like, I get it. For you, like, money is not even a concept that you're familiar with. So of course 30 and 50 are the same thing for you. But so Rob, where did you grow up around here, or?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, but then I moved out here when I was 18, and I went to St. John's University in Queens. So I was lucky in that in that my New York experience going to college was I didn't go to college in Manhattan. I went to college in Queens. So I was able to kind of, I love Manhattan. I love everything about Manhattan. And I know quite a bit about Manhattan, period. But I also like to pride myself on the fact that I'm just not limited to, just Manhattan. And the St. John's experience really gave that to me because a lot of people that, it was primarily a commuter school when I went there, but that they had just open residence halls. But any of my friends all drove to the campus, and they lived out on Long Island, or they lived in Brooklyn, or they lived in, other parts of Queens. So I was able to really, get a borough education as opposed to just like this, hipster centric Manhattan life, which I did too. Like I hung out in the Village all the time, and obviously I went to movies left and right, but it was good to have that kind of diverse education in New York,
Yeah.
So it's part of the reason why I stayed in Queens, because I've been having Manhattan withdrawal lately. And it's been difficult.
Tell me about it. I just came back.
It's been nice to, but it was always nice to not have to deal with the city, or to be able to like get an apartment somewhere where the rent was decent, and they still gave you could still get a rent stabilized apartment.
Yeah.
And but that was part of the reason why I wound up staying in Queens, is just because to me, there was more to New York City than just Manhattan.
Yeah.
I miss it. So
I came back from Jersey today, and what I do, because I drive, I take the long way home now, because I just want to see the city. Do you know what I mean? Like normally I would come over to George Washington, I'd race
and
come down and like find a parking spot. Now I go over the Holland Tunnel, and I drive through a little bit of the Village just to see and I mean, all you see is just empty everything. But yeah, this movie is like, it's true. Like this movie is a love letter to New York for people who hate New York. Like all of it makes there's nothing in here where you're like, that's not fair. That's like a shitty thing to say about New York. But it's like it's a real insidery thing. But and all the characters are there, right? Like the douchey Wall Street guys, the blue collar guys.
The Rolex.
I mean, when they get on the bus and the camera just pans to the people on the bus, it's like that's all of New York. Like that could be like that could be the Model UN of a bus in New York City. And it's like it's funny because it's like one of those things where like it's all people that don't like each other, that don't fit. Like there's no community. There's just like pockets of people that don't like each other,
right?
That are just jammed into these spaces, and somehow we fucking make it work. But it's also like on the precipice of disaster at any moment.
Yeah, like that guy who's getting his head shaved in the bus, and then the bus stops, and she nicks him.
And the poor guy with the guitar. I always feel so bad for the guy with the guitar case that can't get on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's all the frustrations, because I say like New York City is 11 million people, like who at one point had a therapist tell them, hey, you know what you could use, like a house in the country where there's fresh air and nobody around you. Right. And they all decided to go, nah, I'm gonna do the thing that really exacerbates whatever my mental illness is. And whatever it is, we just decide to like pack it all in with each other. And but I also think like this movie is like a little nostalgic too, because like a lot of the like blue collar like people always, like people who are not from here would ask me like, oh, what's a like I have family in Italy, and like they think a New Yorker is like a movie star who speaks perfect like diction, has perfect diction. You know what I mean? Like they don't know that really what a New Yorker is like kind of like somebody who's like rough around the edges, that like is a hustler and a scammer who, like who's like just had to figure out how to survive in this place. And it used to be more of a blue collar town. in that way that you could see in this movie.
Well, I mean, gentrification ruined it. I mean, especially in Manhattan, and in a way that was another reason why I like where I live, because it still has a kind of neighborhood feeling to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that missing now in Manhattan. Maybe it'll come back now with everything that's going on, because I've had friends tell me that you wouldn't believe how quiet it is around here. You wouldn't believe how many stores are boarded up. You wouldn't believe how many, how many things are dark, because it was too much. There's a really great shot in Quick Change where Bill Murray, is in the back of, I want to say they're in their car. And he looks out the window and he sees the development of the building that's going to go up, and it says studio starting at $700,000, and he goes, why, why do and there's this, and even back then there's this whole idea of a vanishing New York. Even then,
yeah. It's funny because it's one of those things where the same way that people have been talking about how bad the kids are and how bad entertainment is for generations and generations. People have been talking about the decline of New York. It was always better in New York City 10 years ago.
Right.
No matter when you're talking about.
Right.
But it's funny because like that, we haven't even mentioned it yet. Like Phil Hartman is another guy who was like sort of brand new, like had been on SNL for a couple of years, has one quick scene, and Bill Murray very smoothly, he uses their real estate anxiety to get out of a tough situation, and it's funny because like watching that, I'm like, $1,200 rent versus $2,600. Like it's like that conversation makes as much sense today as it did then.
Right.
Definitely.
Even when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, look at that rent. That's unbelievable for that place.
Right.
It's like even when you go back and watch Annie Hall. When Annie and Woody are talking about moving in together, and she's like, that place is $400, and he's like, that place is $400. It's got bad carpeting and bugs or whatever it is, but it was still a $400 rent on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, he's also anxious about his rent, and he has a gun because he knows that any time he's expecting to get robbed, which is which is a part of New York City doesn't really exist anymore. Like, thankfully, like that was a real, like I have friends that grew up in Manhattan that would they had money in different pockets for the muggers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so they'd hide money in their socks so the muggers wouldn't find it.
Right.
And it's funny because like my grandfather came here in the 50s, and he was like, I got an apartment for $50 a month on like 2nd Avenue in the 20s. Back when a guy like laying asphalt could rent an apartment in Manhattan. And I don't know, it makes me, we've done this a few times, but like it just like this whole situation just makes me like sad for New York City more than anything else, because we don't know what's gonna, and I don't want to be like a bummer about it, but like a movie like
it's not looking good.
A movie like this a year ago, I would have been like, this is fucking hilarious. Like Grand Central, but like think about Bushwick now, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like I'm watching it and I'm like, fuck,
Yeah. Well, it might be going away. I mean, it's seriously out of all the things that have affected New York, even, 9/11, it might not be as bad as this right now.
Right.
Yeah. For making it what New York is. That New Yorkness is in jeopardy right now because, I mean, a huge part of New York is probably 3 million small businesses, and like how many, 1 million maybe closed? I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. So I hate to be all somber too, but it is. I also think we shouldn't like gloss over it because it's it's a real thing and it's our home. So
I got really upset, and I always like debate how like political or whatever I want to get in on this podcast, but like I got upset. I got upset. No, and I
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Just one minor point because people are like, this is a great time for busybodies and tattletales. If you're a hypochondriac tattletale, like this is a dream fucking come true.
Yep.
So it's very easy for some people to say, oh, all those people who want to restart the economy, all they care about is dollars over people's lives. Okay.
Right.
This is why I got upset. I went to my deli across the street that's owned by a Hispanic family. It's a mother and a father and 2 daughters. And they're scraping by. That's their family. That's right. And then I went, and my laundry that is owned by a Chinese family. Like the son works there, the mom and the dad. I've been taking my laundry to Jersey because I've been doing a lot of work in Jersey. So I just brought my laundry to my parents. So I hadn't been there in a while. The laundromat is boarded up. They're not even opening the laundromat. That's their dream. Like I don't give a fuck about, like, Goldman Sachs could disappear into a fucking volcano. I don't care. I don't care about Chase Bank. I don't care about NSL. Right. But don't tell me that this is just about, like, sooner or later people gotta live, and it can't just be like, well, you like, what is it, like, what is the solution? It's not there has to be something. You just can't have, like, I know people that own their own restaurants. Like, I worry about those people. It's not just billionaires who want to, because guess what?
It's mostly not, dude.
People profit off of shit. People short the market and they make money when there's a recession. So the idea that you're gonna stick it to the billionaires is a fantasy anyway.
It's
like
just
that,
it's bred out of ignorance. They don't like that. That's what people who don't really are. I mean, to be honest, who aren't really that educated would be like, oh, so you're putting the economy over people. But it's like, no, the economy is people. See, that's the thing that they don't understand. So it's not these evil white men that are doing it or whatever. Like, yes, there are evil white men, but I'm not saying like.
And they are evil white men.
And we should worship them, our overlords, right? No, that's.
I mean, they are my favorite, but
right. No, my point is though, like, the people who this is going to hurt and impact are regular people. It really is. The people that are super rich and evil, whatever, like, you're thinking of as, or you in general is thinking of, they're gonna be fine. They have enough money. They could figure it. They have enough things in different, invested into different assets that they could sell off. They have their money, set away in a foreign bank account that doesn't, they don't have to pay any taxes on. They're going to be fine. And the people who are going paycheck to paycheck, or the people who had just a couple thousand in their savings, they're going to be fucked. Especially the ones that have small businesses in New York. I mean, it's bad.
I heard somebody say, like, no business forecasts for zero.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So a business might say, all right, we made 100,000 this year. What if we make 50,000 next year? What are we going to do? Nobody plans for $0
zero revenue. It's impossible, especially in New York with the rent.
It's crazy. But again, like, it is like as much as it made me, like, a little bit, like, nostalgic and sad, it is like a love letter to, like, this city too, and, like, what makes you tough. This movie is about, like, how hard it is just to live in New York City. And that's one of the things I love about New York City. Like, when people are like, oh, dude, I love to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. I'm like, don't even visit. I don't even want you coming in. Don't even, you're not making it better. You're being here is not, and when people are like, oh, the tourist dollars, I'm like, you ever been to Disney World? Is a Coca-Cola cheaper in Disney World because of the tourist dollars? Like, you're not paying any less for shit because people are coming in here. So I want it for me. Like, I'm selfish and I'm greedy. I want New York City for myself. But and that's, this is me being, like, selfish and, like, childish. But I was like, I want New York City. Like, I want.
You're a New Yorker. It makes sense.
Yeah,
and I love other places too. It's not like I'm not one of these people who are like, I can't imagine living anywhere else. But New York City is special.
Now that's me. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah.
The first place that I'm going to when I head back into Manhattan isn't even going to be my office. It's going to be Katz's. Like,
nice. Yes.
It was like I live off the E and the M line, so my office is on not my office, but my typical subway stop is 53rd in Lexington, where I get off to go to work and whatever.
Yeah,
and
I know, well.
the night before, the last night that I was there, I said, if the M comes to take me home, I'll go home. But if it doesn't, I'm going right to Katz's. And of course, the M was right down there and took me home. And I thought it was a sign that I should be safe. And every day since then, I've been like, shit, I really should have went to Katz's. I miss that food so much. So that's going to be my first, the first thing I do once my feet are going to hit Houston and Allen. That's where I'm going to be when I go back to Manhattan.
Yeah, I dig it.
To piggy you off of a couple of things that you've said, I love New York and I can't imagine living anywhere else. And, this whole thing has just made me more grateful that I've survived it, because I went to school here with so many people and I've met so many people in the industry who could not for the life of them make it work. They would come, they would move back home to wherever they were, they would try again, they would move back, and it was just this ongoing back and forth of trying to make it work. And it's been and I've been the last one standing, or one of them anyway. And it's always been a sense. I'm celebrating 20 years here this year, and it's always been one of those things that, like, I wear proudly. And I know people who have, who've escaped the city, during this thing. And, I was like, well, I wasn't going anywhere. I was staying right here. I had the opportunity to go away, have a house here, do this, do that. And I was like, nope, this is my home.
Yeah.
I was here on 9/11, and that was a scary thing. And for the first few weeks of this pandemic, I thought to myself that, well, 9/11 was scarier because, I could stand on my football field at St. John's and see a big black cloud of smoke. So to me, that was scarier than some virus that I couldn't see. Talk to me today, and I'm like, oh my God, don't go near me. I go outside, walk my dog, and I'm like, stay away from me and my dog.
That's the thing that I think is, like, that's upsetting to me too. Is it's like, this is like the perfect boogeyman.
Correct.
Thing you can't see it. Oh, you might be asymptomatic and spreading the disease. It's like, and so it makes. And I was talking to somebody about this. It's like, because I've been going outside. Like, I've been taking bike rides. I'm out. Like, nice. I need to do that. But even just seeing all the people in the masks and that energy of, like, don't get too close to me. Like, there's like a psychic energy in New York City that's not good. If everybody's infected by this energy,
right?
Everybody is a potential danger to me.
Right.
Yep.
This person could kill me if they get too close to me. Like, that's a hard thing to live with.
Yeah.
No,
it really is.
Yeah, I mean, and you're by a hospital. I live by a hospital. I mean, you hear the sirens all night. It's, it's one of those things.
I also hear the ice cream man, though.
Oh my God, Mr. Softy's everywhere.
I would have thought that would have been. Oh, did we lose you?
No, go on.
No, we lost you, actually.
Oh yeah, what happened? I heard it.
You're all right. I could hear you, but yeah, you just stopped.
I was gonna say I would have thought that would have been something to consider not safe to do.
I live across the street from a playground. Like, directly across the street is a playground, and so for years and years and years, you always hear Mr. Softy would park right in front of the house, so I couldn't, like, and all day. So you hear all fucking day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that I wouldn't hear it that much. And sure enough, even though the park is closed, I'm still hearing the theme song.
Yeah.
They're out and about.
Just to get back to Quick Change, like, I don't know if I even want to, like, say the jokes, but, like, there are lines from this movie that are, like, I just say to myself sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of a clown are you? The crying on the inside.
Crying on the inside kind, I guess.
Is one of the funniest things I've ever, like, I think about that, like, all of the time. The whole Tony Shalhoub, the honking of the horn and his, like, it's just so I think Lumbino is a fucking amazing name for a mob boss. Like,
nobody does this to Mrs. Russ Crane.
I've never heard the name before. I don't even know if it's a real Italian name, but, like,
never heard it again.
Lumbino is a perfect name.
It's a great, it's great.
I'm trying to think what other. Up your butt with a coconut makes me laugh so fucking hard.
Okay, so I want to just do a couple things because I know we're running short on time. Number one, and to piggyback off of what I was talking about, seeing, being a Saturday Night Live fan back then, this movie really, in a weird way, kind of profiles 3 Bill Murray performances. When he's in the clown, when he's in that disguise, and when he's not in the disguise. And I love when he's the hostage that comes out. Yeah, spoiler alert, sorry, but when he's the civilian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With that joke. I mean, it's one of up your butt with a coconut. I saw no coconut.
It was disgusting. Like, just that whole energy of that guy is perfect.
And to shoot off that, we haven't discussed the brilliance of Jason Robards in that part.
Oh my God, yeah, like that. It's because the thing is, you could spend all your time on like one segment of this movie, and Jason Robards as the cop who's investigating is unfucking believable.
And it's such a incredibly well developed role about this chief who's looking to maintain his legacy, and at the same time about to go down with the biggest blunder of his career.
Yeah.
And he just plays it. He's one of the all-time greatest actors of all time, period. No matter what movie he's in, there's never a false note in his work. If you're looking at anything from, The Ballad of Cable Hogue to Once Upon a Time in the West, even, Parenthood or
I was gonna say Parenthood. When the son comes, when you realize that he's gonna have to, like, his son is still gonna be a deadbeat and he's gonna have to take care of his grandson, like that moment of him just accepting, like, this is my lot in life, it's so fucking good. And it's funny. It's like one thing that's kind of hard sometimes for movies to show is if like a detective, you just take it for granted that a guy's a good detective. It's like, how do you prove that a guy is a good detective? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you have to show them actually solving the crime. So you have to actually be like, the writer has to be as smart as you're claiming the detective is. And in this movie, like, as much as it's zany and funny, like, he's a really smart cop. Like, he's figuring out what's going on and using his experience and his detective work to solve the crime in a way that, in just a straight movie and a straight performance, would have been a good, like, detective movie,
Right. And Bill Murray is it's funny. And then it's really, smart, smart writing or smart directing or however you want to put it. But then Bill Murray then complements it, a scene or two later where he goes, well, by now the cops have figured out that it's, 2 men and a woman. And, and just basically, helps drive the narrative along. But you could see that Grimm wasn't a moron. He wasn't Sonny Wartzik. No. He actually could pull this off. And for whatever,
he wins in the end too.
Yeah, he totally wins in the end.
He wins in the end. God. He becomes a hero. Everyone wins in the end except for the Italians. That's what I like about it.
And then when Robards figures it out, it's one of the great last shots.
Yeah.
And not to mention, it's just the score of the movie is great too. It's great score.
It really is good.
You really don't see. You could say, all right, you really don't see the movie. The ingenuity of the way the movie is structured is you don't know what's going to happen with the bank robbery until the bank robbery. You don't know how they're going to pull it off till they pull it off.
Right.
And then you can say, all right, the middle part is everything that can get in their way of going to JFK will get in their way. And you could, I think it's well done, but it's not exactly, like, that's a pretty basic structure. But the end of the movie, you don't see coming at all. Like, you would never.
Yeah, you don't see them tying that loose end up with Lambino.
That tie up is great. Like, that's a really well written, like, ending. And it's funny, like, Bill Murray, dude, I could just talk about him for hours, but one of my favorite Bill Murray things is he started at Second City. Right. And he was, at a time when it was like Belushi and Harold Ramis
and Joe Flaherty and all those guys.
I remember reading in, like, one of those, like, history of that time books is that he realized when they were doing, like, improv, and he wasn't gonna, like, charge ahead and try to take over the improv scene. So he would just grab one of the girls and just start dancing in the back. So whatever the scene was happening whatever the scene was on the stage in the improv, Bill Murray and a girl were just dancing in the background. And so he found an ingenious way to like make, to make himself seen without coming out and being like over the top or, trying. That's such a smart, like subtle thing to do. And even when he was at SNL, like he didn't really groove right away at SNL. And he started doing the lounge singer, and it's literally just him singing. Yeah. Like there's no like real trick to the sketch except that it's just a charming Bill Murray playing a ridiculous over the top lounge singer. And he like just had this like, it just clicked. And that's what made Bill Murray a star. So you could just kind of put Bill Murray, like my favorite comedies are movies like this that are a real movie with a real plot, with real characters, but with jokes. And that's like Bill Murray is the king of that. You put him in any, like, I don't know if you saw Get Low a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, of course.
I love that movie. Him and Duvall should have been nominated for Oscars. And that's
absolutely. They probably should have both won it for that movie.
Yeah, that's a regular, beautiful movie that character, 10 other actors would have played it 10 different ways, but Bill Murray just can't help but being funny in that role. And that's why he never hits the joke. It's always another funny, like in the bank when the guy's like, they didn't give me the receipt. Like, watch the double negatives, pal. Like, that's such a fucking hilarious joke that comes out of Bill Murray's attitude. And I don't know. I just can't. Like, I don't want to. I could have another podcast just dedicated to Bill Murray. That's what I'm saying. But this movie like remains like a big one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also, you also have to wonder. Just it might be unknown amongst a general populace, but you have to wonder, is this a favorite of Sophia Coppola's? Is this a favorite of Wes Anderson's, who have been able to, use Bill in a way that, that has given him this longevity, whereas there were other actors who came up with him on SNL who were equally as funny and talented and whatnot, who have not been able to have that kind of latter day, career with a young director or not even a young director, just anybody else. It's almost like, it's unfortunate that we'll never know what the kind of career that John Belushi would have had. I've always said that John Belushi probably would have had a career similar to Bill Murray's now.
Well, he wanted to be Marlon Brando, right? He didn't want to be the clown.
Right. Yeah, no. And there's an interview with Dan Aykroyd and Belushi when they were promoting Neighbors on the Today Show, and Gene Shalit asked Belushi, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And Belushi said, doing Fiddler on the Roof. And they asked Aykroyd, what do you see yourself doing in 10 years? And he says, directing him in Fiddler.
Yeah.
So you almost kind of wonder, I went off on a tangent about that, but, you need to wonder, just how, this movie may be influential for us. It may be influential for, or it may be influential for those young guys. I say young guys, and Rushmore came out in 98, and Lost in Translation came out in 2004.
Yeah.
And we're approaching a 16th year. That's 16 years ago. Rushmore's legal at this point. Quick Change is turning 30 this year, along with Goodfellas and Dances with Wolves and a whole bunch of other movies.
I found out today, Googling this movie, that Sophia Coppola and Bill Murray have a new movie coming out.
Yep, it comes out. It's coming out soon. It's going to be on. It's the first movie that I guess that Apple and A24 are doing together.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
Lost in Translation is another one for me. Like, he should have won the Oscar. Like, I can go back and watch that movie anytime. And like, and even like Harold Ramis said, like that's the real Bill. Like, that's the closest that Bill ever came to exposing himself on camera. And I love that movie.
That's a very personal movie for me professionally, because when I started out working in the business, I started out as an intern in the publicity department of Focus Features, and that was the first movie I worked on. And
no shit.
And when I used to wear it, but I put on weight and it doesn't fit me anymore. But I had that camouflage army T-shirt, and it said "Lost in Translation." But when he's saying in the karaoke bar, "What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?" I have that. I have a replica of that shirt, and which is hysterical. But it was one of the greatest things for me to be able to see that movie right when it was coming out, and to be part of that. It was my first gig in the business. And or one of my first gigs, and to really be part of like, wow, Bill Murray might win an Academy Award. This is going to be, wow, Sophia Coppola is the first female American director ever nominated for an Academy Award. Like, this is unbelievable. I remember it was a really, really cool time. I didn't get to meet Bill during that period. I've never met Bill, but that's a very special movie. For me, just because it's great. I mean, it's also just a great movie.
I'll tell you quickly. I'm a huge Francis guy, Francis Ford Coppola, and got to have. I was in the wine business for a little bit, and I actually got to have a lunch with him when he was introducing a wine to the New York market. And it was you can't even imagine like how incredible it was for me.
Yeah.
But at the end, he goes, listen, I got to get going. I'm supposed to meet Sophia. We're gonna go over the print for her new movie. And I was like, that's like, this guy's like, children are making movies, and now he's like, they're like how fucking incredible is that he's like directed some of the greatest films ever, and now he's like, oh, I'm gonna go help my daughter make her movie. Like, it's amazing.
Was it Lost in Translation, or was it something else?
No, it would have been, I think it would have been The Beguiled. This was like maybe 3 years ago. This would have been like about 3 years ago, I would say. But just it's just like amazing to like, because again, like that whole family, and there's like a cool like Bill Murray Coppola, thing where he did that, where Talia Shire, who's Francis Ford Coppola's sister is why can't I think of his name right now?
Jason Schwartzman.
His mother.
That's Jason's mother.
Yeah, so there's that Coppola connection. Like Bill Murray would like very smartly works with the Coppolas if he can.
Yeah, I will say, by the way, I remember meeting Sophia then. And I thought that she was a knockout in person.
Yeah.
Like, just total beautiful woman, stunning. But a few years ago, I went to see The Godfather at Radio City Music Hall. For the Tribeca Film Festival. They did 1 and 2, and then the cast and crew came out after, did a Q, and spent all day at Radio City seeing this. And but for me, the coolest thing about that was Francis showed up with his entire family, and they all sat like right in the orchestra watching The Godfather. And so Francis and his wife and Sophia, they were there, and they did that again this past year in Lincoln Center for the Cotton Club Encore, which if you haven't seen, it's really, really good.
I haven't seen it. He was actually talking about going to work on that too, that same lunch. Yeah,
it really is. He really hit a home run with that one. It's really, really great. Cool. It's probably the best of his revisionist, recuts that he's done.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, whatever about Apocalypse Now in terms of how many times that he's cut it again. He should have just left it alone, personally.
Yeah, maybe Bill Murray should re-release this movie in the theaters and see if we could finally get the love that it deserves.
Well, it's funny, back in August, I want to say it was last August, Metrograph showed a 35 millimeter print of Quick Change, and Howard Franklin was there. And here I was thinking, they're not going to announce it, but Bill's going to show up for this movie. Like, it's just what he does. It would be totally in the Bill Murray thing. So I went, and the theater was half empty, which was shocking, because you would think that all the hipsters that go to Metrograph would be like, oh my God, I got to see this movie. Okay. And supposedly the print is very rare too. So they wound up getting the print from like the Warner Vault. and it was in pristine condition. I'm a big 35 millimeter guy in terms of revivals. So if a movie's playing in a DCP, in a revival house, I won't go. But if it's playing in 35, it could be the scratchiest print on earth. And that's, to me, is the way that it should be seen. So anyway, Bill didn't show up, but Howard Franklin did a Q&A and whatever. And then 2 nights later, Bill Murray showed up in the audience of Groundhog Day on Broadway and saw it for the first time.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I was just like, you could have been at Quick Change the other night. But that would have been great to see. I would wonder what his relationship with that movie would be like now.
It's probably
30 years on. And if he's not going to reissue it, Warner Archive really needs to do a Blu-ray, restore it to 4K, and put it out. It would be a blockbuster seller.
I have a junky DVD that has no special features at all.
I had the VHS when it came out because I'm a big physical media whore. Always have been, always will be. I don't care.
So is Peter.
You see that, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. I don't understand it.
Well,
your generation, buddy. It's your generation.
No, I get it. I have a thing with like records.
But that's exactly it.
Yeah, I get it.
I miss being able to go to a video store and just discover.
Let me ask you a question. Do you get Netflix DVDs sent to you in the mail still?
No, that I don't do.
Yeah, because you're a sane person.
Did you see the disdain, Alex? Did you see the disdain he just said that?
Yeah, I'm frankly fed up with you. It doesn't make any sense. I think you're the only one on the island getting them.
You know what I looked? No. You know what I looked up today?
No, you're defending him.
You know what I looked up yesterday because my brother was breaking my balls about this.
What is it?
I've been getting DVDs from Netflix since 2006. I've gotten
disgusting.
836 DVDs that I've gotten.
If I want a DVD, I'll get it from the library. Because New York Public Library is great. You could request it and it's sent right to your branch.
I do that too. Rob, I'm just worried that my phone is actually gonna die. So we should.
It's fair enough, man.
But this has been great. I'm like like I said, I was so excited to do this movie, and this didn't disappoint. Like this is exactly. I think we honored a movie that deserves to be as loved as much as we love it. So I'm really glad that we were able to do this.
And I believe it's on Hulu right now, right?
Is it? I downloaded it illegally, so
nice.
I'm sorry.
I believe it is on Hulu. Right
okay,
now.
good.
So if you got Hulu.
Yes.
I read that the other day.
I believe it. Let's just say it is. And also, thank you for picking it because without you picking the movie, I would have never. I don't think I would have ever heard of it.
I'm glad you.
It was really good. I really did enjoy it. Half the time I'm lying when I say that on this podcast. But I really am not. This time.
Alex, real quick. I mean, we heard that Peter's a big Coppola guy. Who do you love?
Oh man, I'm not really the biggest movie buff, but in terms of like who I love, and I'm a lot younger. Well, not a lot younger. I'm probably 10 years younger than you, and more younger than Peter. More than that. I like Quentin Tarantino, which I guess is what is that a hack answer? I love Tarantino. I like.
Depends on what Tarantino you like at this point.
Yeah, you're not allowed to like the wrong ones.
Who's the wrong? What movies are the wrong Tarantino? Because I don't know. I feel like I like most of them.
Well, it depends on the mood. But what I will say is since Quentin managed to come up here, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's a masterpiece, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And anybody who says that it isn't,
those people are generally I find them very, very stupid.
Yeah.
I like Tarantino. I like to get you an idea. I love Goodfellas. Again, I know it's a pretty stock answer, but honestly, Goodfellas and Pulp Fiction are probably my 2 favorite movies of all time. They came out within a year of each other, so maybe I was born in 92 and they came out in 94. Yeah. I don't know. But in terms of to me, that's the ultimate movie. It's like a dark comedy, like Goodfellas or something, like something that's just hilarious when you rewatch it, but is captivating the first time you watch it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite type of movie.
Well, Marty will do that to you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why movies like a lot of his movies that get shit on, some of them more so than others,
Who, Marty?
Yeah, like The Departed, I feel like it's shit on all the time. I thought it was pretty good.
I don't know. Fucking rat runs across The thing at the end. I mean,
that's a lot. That's a lot. But see, as a guy who's not, I'm very stupid with movies. I probably didn't even pick up on that the first time I saw it.
The thing about The Departed is
that is annoying, though. No, I agree.
The thing about The Departed is, and we could go off on a whole Scorsese thing because he's my idol. I love him, but I it's not just the mob stuff. I'm a big defender of silence. I think it's one of the best films in the last 20 years.
I agree.
And then everything else in between. He just hasn't directed mob movies. But the thing about The Departed is, it's just Scorsese light.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have, the grit and the realism that Mean Streets, Goodfellas, Casino, Taxi Driver, all that stuff has. This is Marty just having fun and not taking himself too seriously, and he wound up winning Oscars for it.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's why it gets a lot of criticism from real movie people because they know that Scorsese deserves Oscars for his previous work, and then they know that Departed didn't deserve the Oscar but got it. Whereas, if it didn't happen, if we just took away awards, I don't think it would be as hated. I really don't think it would be as hated.
No, it probably would have been forgotten about.
Yeah, it would have been one of okay, that was a movie he made.
And it was great to have Jack in that.
Amazing, yeah.
Considering that it was one of the last.
That's what I fucking love about it, honestly.
Well, and
he's fantastic.
I think that if people led with that, you know why I love The Departed? Because Jack Nicholson's just fucking wild in it. I think I'd have a better idea.
Yeah.
How do you not have fun watching him?
No, it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Some of those scenes are amazing. All right,
we could go on for another hour and a half, but I would gladly. We'll definitely have you.
We'll have you back on.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Whenever you guys want.
Anytime.
We'll talk about movies that you haven't seen, Alex, and we'll.
Oh, there's a ton. You don't have to try.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Back to the Future before this podcast, so there's a lot of very.
Did you like it?
I liked the movie. It was enjoyable. I like Doc. That was the reason why I liked the movie. I hated Marty McFly. I thought it was stupid. That's my take.
It's like I know someone who watched E.T. for the first time not too long ago and absolutely hated it.
Haven't seen it.
Wow.
I'm
not going to get on the whole Spielberg thing. I wouldn't push a Spielberg movie on you.
The thing about kids or what? What thing?
Let's not start that conversation now.
I'm kidding. There's a lot of those conversations.
Rob, where can people find you? What do you want to plug anything? Or?
Yeah.
I have nothing specific to plug at this time, but you can find me on Twitter. I am at Rob Cotto, at ROBCOTTO. And I'm on Twitter, and I'm willing to talk quick change, Scorsese, and whatever else, movie stuff you guys want to chat about.
Part
Physical
of that movie
media too, folks. Physical media forever.
Part of that movie Twitter that Peter's trying to get involved with. For sure.
It's a dark place.
I know.
That's what Marcus said.
Marcus is one of the, is one of the nicer,
He's a great guy.
One of the nicer film Twitter, folks. But man, there's a lot, and I'll say this here: there's a lot of people on film Twitter that don't know their film history, and they like to. To pretend that they do, and that's when it becomes annoying for guys like me and Marcus who have actually done the homework and are not just listening to some director say, well, I ripped this influence and I got that influence, but I haven't seen the movie. That's a lot of the stuff that Marcus and I are, but to credit Marcus, who I'm thankful for in so many different ways, his side by sides, man, they're the real deal.
They're so fun.
He's amazing.
I love those. I look forward to them.
Yeah. So,
Rob, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you guys. It was great. I really look forward to coming back on.
Absolutely.
Stay safe, man.
You as well.
Stay safe. Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.